Hey everybody, back with the video here to show you how to put the Nintendo 64 back together. I decided to split them into two parts because I thought, well, maybe somebody only needs to know how to take it apart, and maybe somebody took theirs apart and needs to know how to put it together, so I just split it that way. But after I took it apart, I cleaned the board with some isopropyl. I had these heat blocks off, so I went ahead and I removed the old thermal pads, which are like these. They're smaller, but I bought a new sheet of thermal pads from Amazon, and I cut 3 squares. I cut one a little bit too small, so I cut a 4th square. But this is double-sided. It's got like adhesive that you can peel back, and I put them on the heat block and press down on them. It's kind of like in place now, so I'm just going to leave it. But I cut them a little bigger than the original, kind of to match the actual size of the chip, just maybe help pull more heat off of it. And like I said, I cleaned this better than I did the very first time I put it together. So I'm going to go ahead and put this system back together. What you need to do first is you have this shielding that goes over top. And there's one that goes over the bottom. I also have this RGB modded with the RGB chip. So if you do that, that's why on this side here, the tab's been up. Oops, sorry, I bent the camera there. But this shield goes over where the expansion port goes. This shielding goes over the top of the motherboard just like that. Well, actually, I goofed up. I forgot to put the cartridge slot back in. Once you have this out and clean it, you just match these two holes up. That slides in. Press down. It can only go in one way. If you try the other way, it just won't go in. You just match the two arrows up. This shielding goes over top, just like so. This shielding goes over that. This goes under that shielding, but you can actually lay that there first and put this there. And so you don't forget, this shielding goes back in place. And there's a little lip there to hold it. And then you need the last shielding, which goes like this. Just kind of match up the holes on the heat sink with the heat blocks underneath. And the first thing I like to do is take the 2 black screws and secure this down. They go right here on top of this heat shield. I don't screw that in all the way just yet. I just almost, but not all the way. Just make sure it goes in kind of smooth. And while I'm at it, I put the 2 little the small long screws in back to the expansion port. Tighten it down. Actually, you can't tighten them because I think those screw directly into the plastics. That's my fault there. Whoops, I bumped the camera again. Next, what I like to do is to secure this heat sink in place is take the 2 screws that have like the washers on them. They go right here. Just make sure they go on smooth. Don't want to strip anything. Tighten them almost all the way down, but not all the way. Just in case you need to make a slight adjustment when you put these screws in. So now comes the fun part. You got 10 screws here. Just kind of screw them in. Sorry, if you can hear it in the camera, there's a barking dog outside. Hope it's not, doesn't pick it up too loud. So if you have to, you can always back the screw, like you put the screw down and then turn it to the left and kind of tilt, like sometimes it'll click like that, and then you can go to the right. It helps set it in place. I do that a lot when I put things back together so I don't strip them. It's a little hard to do. I have the camera in the front, but I'll try my best here because I'm further away from the table than I normally am when I work on things. These don't actually, you don't have to screw them in too far. Since they're so small, they don't take much to get these back in. Down to the final two. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here, so my hands aren't in the way. I'll show you real quick. All these screws are exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which spot you put them in, as long as you get them right here in these 10 spots. Okay, so I have all these screws in. I'm just going to give them all a tighten. Just don't over tighten. Whoops. Okay, so they're all tightened down. Got that part taken care of, and then we have to fasten this down to the plastic. So set this to the side. I got the bottom plastic shield here. I should have I had the chance, I should have cleaned this out a little better, since it got dusty since the last time I took it apart and cleaned it, but that's okay. Okay, now you want to start with the bottom here. Okay, you got the bottom shell, and you don't want to forget to put the two little metal brackets down. These here, they only go in one way. There's two of them, one there, one right here. Then you don't want to forget the little plastic piece that goes for the LED light. That'll drop right here. You'll see it if it'll stick out right here if it's in correctly. And that's all you gotta do to prep this part. Then we drop, be careful that the bottom shield don't come out. Oh yeah, and you have to put this piece right here, the little AV multi-out brackets, that's right there. And right here, there's a little gap in that plastic. It just goes in between those. The controller ports should just drop into place. It's kind of hard to do this with the camera in front of me, but I'll do the best I can. Whoops, I know what's wrong. The LED was getting in the way. Whoops. I think you can put... Whoops, now this came on. Now it should drop into place, just like that, easy. This here, I think you can just lift up slightly on it. Put it into place. Gonna say this usually gives me the most trouble. Actually, no wonder I had it backwards. That's my fault. Sorry about that. There's a little cutaway groove there. So yeah, it should just... I have to remove this again. Put that into place. There we go. Now we can drop it in. Just like so. And now we can start screwing everything back together. I'm going to start with these two little screws. I'm going to screw them down. Okay, next I'm going to do the 4 silver screws. They go in the very back. I'll screw them in. Check, make sure they're all tight. Then the next thing we want to do is I like to put the 2 longer screws in each side of the cartridge slot. And as with the silver screws and these 2 screws, I'll make sure I get them tightened down, because this is where the cartridge slides in and out, and you don't want it to not be tightened down and be putting like a lot of pulling up on the motherboard without like having anything kind of securing it in place. And same way with these, when you're unplugging the power brick and the AV cord, you don't want to like have this like being loose and moving around. So that should be good. So the only thing left on the inside that we have to do is we're going to put these 6 screws back in. Like I said in my other video, when I was taking it apart, you don't put a screw right here. and that part, because that's for the outside screw. But one goes right here. And then one goes inside of here. Just like that. Okay, then one goes on that side. Just drop it in there. Fasten it down. One goes here. Right there. I can get it threaded in there, right? Without it, I don't want to strip it. It doesn't want to go in. It wants to like turn and stop. Just make sure you don't, when it does that, don't keep going with it. Might have to do that one last. Actually, that might not even be a spot. If not, it'd be my goof. Oops, sorry, I gave the camera a bump. Okay, yeah. That was completely my fault. That's not even a screw hole, so that way, that kind of goes to show that even if you take these apart and put them back together, that, you know, there's so many screws in here that, see, that goes straight down the plastic. And it's also good that you don't force the screws in case if you accidentally make a mistake like that, that you don't want to destroy like the motherboard or anything, or strip anything. I'm just going to give these all a quick tug, just that way I know they're tight. These all should be tight, but you may want to check because they could come just a little bit loose when you're screwing other stuff in. Oh, it's good. I'll give these a little check. And we're good to go. All we got to do now is put the top back on. And with the top, I forgot to mention before in my last video that you can take these, the power button and reset button out. All you got to do is just flip it around, press these two tabs, and then you go on the opposite side like so, and they come out like that, and they can only go back in one direction. And if you want to take this off, you can do that too. There's two screws holding it in, and you pull this off, and then you can remove the two flaps up front, but be careful because there's a spring on each side on the inside of it. I don't know how well you can see it here, but those could go flying off and you can lose it. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Make sure that you match up the power button to this position here when you put it back down. And you know if you did it right because it'll click back and forth. So flip it around. And we're going to put the last 6 screws in. But don't forget to put the feet on. They just go back on like that. I like to do those first so the feet don't fall back off on me if I move it around. Just like all the other screws, make sure they go in nice and smooth so you're not stripping anything. Okay, now we're down to the home stretch. 4 screws left. Just gonna drop them in there. That's the screw I was telling you about on the inside that it screws out, it goes in from the outside. I didn't even have that one dropped in there. That's why it didn't feel like it was grabbing anything. Okay, let's go back through one last time, make sure I have everything tightened, get that back in on the camera. Okay, just like that. It just goes back simple. Got the expansion bay right there. Didn't forget to put the feet on. Everything went back in right. You got your controller ports. The buttons are on there. Flaps. Plug your expansion pack back in if you took it out, or if you have an expansion pack or a jumper pack. And you put your door back on, and that's all there is to it. Putting it back together. Well, I hope you liked the video, found it useful or entertaining. If you like it, you can subscribe, give the video a like. If you didn't like the video, just dislike it. Leave a comment if you like. And I want to end the video here. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.